Good morning to one and all present here. Science is not only a disciple of reason, but also of romance and passion. Quantum 2020 is a conglomeration of many competitions ranging from different colors and phases of STEM, beginning with quizzes and adventurous events to combating in profitable ventures. As a novice to the ways of the world, Quantum 20 from LFS is providing you with a platform to help you know where you stand. This year, Quantum is a completely online event, thus marking a special milestone for the LFS family. The Quantum 2020 team would like to convey their special regards to Sister Hilda D'Souza for supporting and encouraging us throughout. We've all gathered here on this fine morning to witness the much awaited science debate event La Disputa. The topic for the debate is: the post COVID world will see humanity at its worst when loss of faith, of wealth, and of dignity will bring about a barbaric state of affairs. I now take this opportunity to introduce our respected judges and moderator for the event. Our first judge for the day is Ms. Meeta Lal. A postgraduate in English literature and university ranker, she has been working as a teacher for the last 22 years. She has recently resigned as the head of the English department at Beldy Church School. She has also been an examiner for ISC English for the last 10 years. Ms. Lal has specialized in fiction in English literature and Shakespeare's works. Teaching is not just a profession for her, it is her passion. A mentor and guide to her students, Ms. Lal has always been extremely popular amongst them due to her friendly and considerate approach. She has also been the students' counselor and the head of the examination cell. An avid reader, Miss Lal very dearly holds in her possession a remarkable collection of good books. Her other hobbies include gardening and writing. We are pleased to have you here, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Our next judge for the day is Mr. N. Mohan. Mr. Mohan is a satisfied Jamshedpurian, born at TMH, schooling at LFS, engineering at Kharagpur, and working at Tata Steel. Although he is a mechanical engineer by qualification, what he did in Tata Steel was setting up IT systems, beginning his career as a programmer and ending his innings in 2017 as chief IT projects. Customer interaction and man management was his forte, besides having the knack to innovate when designing IT solutions for business problems. He's an avid sportsman, dabbling in almost every sport, but prefers the tennis courts and trekking in the Himalayas, and when indoors fancies, the chessboard. Music, books, and TV are his other passions. He believes in giving time for social work and is involved in two NGOs: Spardha, which enriches sports awareness among the mass, and Mati, which aims to build model villages near Bundi. Thank you for being here with us, sir.
Thank
Our,
you.
our third judge for the day is Miss Mona K. Bahadur. Hailing basically from Jamshedpur and an alumnus of DBMS English School, Miss Mona holds arts and law degrees and has done CS from Institute of Company Secretaries of India, New Delhi. Starting her career as an educationist, she was associated with teaching profession for 8 years. Later on, she joined the legal department of JUSCO and worked there for some time before joining her present company as the CS and legal head. Along with being the company secretary, she simultaneously holds other positions and responsibilities, namely corporate compliance and communication head, chairperson of POSH, Prevention of Sexual Harassment Committee, chief of Corporate Social Responsibility Committee, investor grievances redressal head, key managerial personnel of the company, chairperson of Policy Formulation and Drafting Committee. Ms. Bahadur is also a member of the Economic Affairs, Finance and Taxation Panel of Confederation of Indian Industries, Jharkhand, for the year 2019-2020. An aspiring orator, she is often invited by various institutions to deliver talks as a motivational speaker. She believes in giving back to the society in every possible way and tries to live by her belief system by being an active member of the Rotary Club of Jamshedpur. She is the bulletin editor of Rotary Club. She's fond of reading, writing, and listening to music. Penning her thoughts in the form of poetry is one of her favorite pastimes. We are honored to have you here with us, ma'am.
Thank you so much, and a very good morning to all of you, and wish you all the best.
Thank you, ma'am. Our last judge for the day is Mrs. Daisy Singh, an esteemed alumnus of Little Flower School. Miss Daisy is a high school English teacher in the Eliphas family itself. Having a master's in English, she holds a strong command over the language like nobody else. Her love for debating has made the school proud numerous times. When the students trained under her have won laurels at national level debate competitions. She herself has been chairperson at many prestigious debates. Thank you, Miss, for joining us. I now
Thank you.
introduce you to the moderator of this debate session, Mr. Harsh Sinha. A student of international relations at King's College London, Mr. Harsh has won awards at international level MUNs, including Cambridge Uni International MUN, London International MUN, which is the largest conference in Europe. He was also slated to be part of the United Kingdom delegation to Harvard World MUN in Tokyo before the COVID crisis forced a postponement. He was also invited to speak at the World Peace Summit Malaysia 2020 and International Youth Project for Minority Rights Istanbul 2020. I now introduce to the participants the general rules for debate. Please note. Speak only when called upon by the moderator. Strictly adhere to the time limit, that is 3 minutes for the individual speech and 2 minutes for rebuttal. A bell will be rung to notify you in case you overstep the time limit of 3 minutes for the speech. The first bell will be rung at 2 minutes 30 seconds. The second bell will be rung at 3 minutes. Please note, the time for rebuttal is 1.5 minutes with 3 questions entertained, and the speaker has 30 seconds to present a rebuttal for 1 question. Also use the hand raise feature on Zoom to ask questions during the rebuttal. No cross-questioning, and all decisions made by the moderator will be final and binding. The order of speakers is as follows: maple for, maple against; aspen for, aspen against; eucalyptus for, eucalyptus against; bristol cone for, bristol cone against; hazel for, hazel against; cypress for, cypress against. I now request the participants to switch on your video and mics. Best of luck to all of you. I now hand over the debate proceedings to Harsh.
Hi. Thank you so much all for being here. First of all, a very good morning to the judges, to the organizers of the event, and of course our speakers. So I think the rules have been very clear. If there's anything else that needs to be clarified, you can always ask us. And without further ado, let's get into the debate as such. So I will be addressing the speakers in terms of the school code first, and then their stance, that is for or against. So for example, if it's maple, I'll be addressing you as maple for, maple against, such. And start with the order of speakers first, and I think the first is maple for. And right, give me a second. So maple for, you will have 3 minutes to present your speech, and then you will have to entertain 3 questions from other speakers in terms of their rebuttals, and then you will have 30 seconds for answering one question, and you have three questions in total. So, uh, right, organizers, can you inform me how do we start the debate? I mean, like when I say that your time is starting, you'll start recording, right? Or you'll start, talking the time.
Yes, sir. Once you take the name of the team, we'll start with the time limit.
Right, absolutely. So I think we can get started without further ado. And Maple 4, you have the floor for 3 minutes.
Who can use the term gone viral now without shuddering a little? Who can look at anything anymore, a door handle, a bag of veggies, without imagining at swarming with those unseeable, undead, unliving block dotted with suction pads, waiting to fasten themselves onto our lungs? Who can think of ordinary pleasure now? Which scientist or doctor is not secretly praying for a miracle? Which priest is not secretly, at least, submitting to science? And even when this virus proliferates, who could not be thrilled by the swell of birdsong on the streets? Peacocks dancing at the traffic crossings and silence in the skies. This quote by Arundhati Roy in the India Forum's article named The World is at Stake clearly states that the world will witness an outbreak after the COVID 19. Good morning, everyone present here. I, Himpriya Kumari, strongly stand for the given motion that the post COVID world will see humanity at its worst. A writer in the India Forums, Sanjay Jha, clearly says that despair in the pandemic health brings mental health to the center stage, and therefore this will continue to play a very major role for many more years to come. The post COVID world will see governments at stake, and they will fail in their working, and therefore economies will be at least. Politics will turn toxic and governments will not be able to cooperate internationally, and this will hinder to fight against the virus. The closing of borders will therefore bring trade at stake and travel, and bringing economy at its worst, thereby brightening or heightening anger and anxiety. Governments will face gigantic debts, and most developing countries will be excluded. A financial crisis is in the offing. From racism to bullying, the world in the COVID 19 today has witnessed a lot and has already brought the worst in people. Over the last few weeks, the world has been seeing xenophobia, racism, and discrimination at its height. In March, the crisis took a communal turn as the entire country the Nizamuddin outbreak was at its peak. It became so intense that Muslims were even considered responsible for the pandemic outbreak, and Corona Jihad and Tablighi virus became trending on Twitter. Racism at its peak today, as the economically underprivileged have been unfairly targeted. A video of migrants, like migrant laborers, being hosed down with a disinfectant by officials near a checkpoint in Bareilly clearly shows that this is what going to happen when the world will see a little less amount of COVID 19 patients, as today India witnesses more than 50,000 patients per day. Today, according to an article by Taslima Nasreen, who says that none of the clerics or the popes are going to the churches and the mosque to pray to Allah or the God that we are we could be saved from this pandemic. They aren't going. They are just sitting at home, and this sense of thing will arouse a feeling of this faith for God, and and the people will eventually lose their faith in God. Economy will lead to decrease in wealth. People's thinking related that God will not do anything and it's just the scientists who do so will decrease the faith, and at the end the world will see an outbreak more severe than the COVID-19 pandemic. I rest my case here by saying Bill Gates, who said a quote that no one who lived through this pandemic will ever forget it, and it is impossible to overrate the pain that the world is seeing right now and will continue to feel for many, many years to come. Thus, humanity is at precipice, and its failure and its future is at stake. Thank you.
Thank you, Maple, for. Now, speakers who want to ask questions, can you please use the hand raise feature? Speaker, are there no speakers who want to ask questions?
I have used the hand raise feature. This is Aspen against.
Right, absolutely. Give me a second. Right, organizers, I can't really see who is using the hand raise feature here. So can we have some alternate arrangement for that? Something like the speakers who want to ask questions, can they mention that they want to ask a question in the chat, like in one word, something like that? I can't really see the hand raise feature at all here on my computer.
Aspen against, do you want to ask a question?
I do.
Please do so.
Firstly, well spoken. You mentioned that people are no longer attending churches and mosques, and this might lead to a possible loss of faith. Well, many church sessions and mosque sessions are moving online. As you know, the online forum has also been on a roll ever since the corona outbreak. So, do you think that risking yourself to a possible infection is a better option as just so that you don't lose faith when there are sessions online to help you reach God and help yourself acquire mental stability?
Thank you for your question. Like I mentioned in my speech, what I meant to say was that Taslima Nasreen is a writer who was recently in Mecca, and what she observed there was that, like, online, I agree with you that online sessions in churches and mosques are going, but what she observed was the pope and the clerics who are there, who what they do is, like, they are conducting sessions, they are telling people that if something is started by God, God will only end it. But at the end, what happened is, when people like when they close that session, or when they are not attending it, the basic mentality that they gain is that till now, like, it's been 6 months or more than in the entire world, till now there's just been a rise, and, like, no hope, no ray of hope. So it is just the scientists who are going to do this, or, like, is their belief in God is somewhere shaken. So like, this way, maybe this will lead to a decrease in faith that they have for God.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Right, is there anyone else who wants to ask a question? Who'd raise their hand? No one else. Also, speakers, can I request you to switch off your video when you're not speaking, because it's creating a little disturbance in terms of who's speaking and who's not. So only the speaker who I asked you to come forward, can they switch on the video next? And since we don't have any other questions, can we move on to the next speaker, that is Maple Against? Maple Against, you have the floor for 3 minutes.
Yes. Good morning, one and all. My name is Adarsh Kumar, and I strongly stand against the motion that post-COVID world will see the world at its worst. Time and again, individuals and communities have demonstrated that the worst situations tend to bring out the best in people and organizations they belong. We should not only see the negative impact of COVID-19 pandemic, but the positive too. For example, in our country, crime incidents have become rarer, air is cleaner, and environment is greener. And Delhi is enjoying lowest air pollution levels in the past decade. Same goes for Kolkata and Mumbai too. Localism is boosted. Till 2020, it was all about internationalization and globalization of businesses. Right now, people stay at home and go out to buy things from local stores, boosting local community. Wildlife is rejuvenating. Migratory birds are returning to lakes and water bodies that they had left due to heavy pollution. Therefore, we can say that nature is healing. Now, talking about the world and India together, the entire lifestyle of people has changed. Practically, they are better than before because they are practicing better hygiene. That means we can see a cleaner world in future. According to me, the COVID 19 pandemic has acted as a catalyst for education to become more digitalized. For example, the online classes going on, and the best example would be YouTube. There were various video lectures which were important for students, but they were available on official sites where they used to charge money. But now those lectures are available for free on YouTube. My third point would be that superpowers spending thousands of crores on nuclear weapons will spend few crores on upgrading hospitals and finding better techniques to tackle such situation in future. Trade can be digitalized internationally, at least at a smaller level, so that the international contact is not broken. Now, talking about barbarism, it is the bleakest scenario. It will happen only if we refuse to extend support to those who get locked out of markets by illness and unemployment. Government is trying its level best, and everything takes time. Therefore, my conclusion is that this is the time to sit back, look at our lives, reflect and strategize the course of what we want our life to be, and above all, realize the fragile nature of existence and respect all life forms, whether it is plants or animals or human beings. Thank you.
Thank, thank you, Maple Against. Are there are there speakers who want to who want to ask questions? Right. Aspen 4 and Cypress 4, as far as I can see. So, Aspen 4, can you go ahead with your question?
First of all, well spoken. In your speech in the beginning, you mentioned that due to the coronavirus outbreak, people are staying home, and that is the reason why crime is lessening down. Well, don't you think that because of the job crisis which we are facing right now and post COVID-19 will result in much more of crime than what is happening? Because since people are not having jobs, doing crime for the people who can will possibly increase.
Aspen 4, could you repeat that question once?
Please repeat that question.
Yeah. In your speech, you mentioned that because of the coronavirus outbreak, people are staying home, and that is the reason the crime is getting lessened. Don't you think that post COVID-19, as what the topic suggests, the crime rates will go higher and higher because nobody will have any job to do?
Thank you for your question. Maple Against, you have 30 seconds to answer that.
Thank you for your question. I think this depends on the mindset of people, whether they take it in a positive way or a negative way. Unemployment is a big question for our country, but after the after the after this pandemic passes, we have employment in various companies, and it is not necessary that everyone will turn into criminals and they'll commit crime. It depends on their mindset. So
Right. Thank you, Maple Against. Cypress 4, you have a question?
Well, I too have a problem with the same point. You said that crime incidents have become low because people are staying home, but domestic violence for women have taken a surge. So that is how humanity is going to take a turn, according to you, after this COVID-19 situation.
Maple, you have the floor for 30 seconds.
domestic violence was there was also it was there before too, and it is not necessary to relate domestic violence with this situation because it was present before. And what is the use of relating that topic to this, that it was present before? Then why to question? What we can do is we should find a solution.
Right. Thank you, Maple Against. Also, in relation to the topic, I would like judges to note that, in fact, there has been a significant rise in terms of cases in terms of domestic violence after the COVID-19 crisis as forced the lockdown. So it is extremely important to note certain statistics as well. Thank you. And moving forward, our next speaker is Aspen For. Aspen For, you have the floor for 3 minutes.
Thank you so much. Amitabh Bachchan, voted as the world's most famous actor by the BBC, tweeted, "You do not write your father's name because you do not know who fathered you." A very good morning to the honorable judges, the respected moderator, and my fellow competitors. Myself, Vanshita Savarna from Team Aspen, and I stand firmly on side proposition of the present motion. The statement that I made in the beginning is a clear indication of the fact that humanity has already been lost with the virus still amidst us. Once referred to as the Mahanayak of Indian cinema, Mr. Bachchan lost his temper just because an anonymous troller tweeted that he died of the coronavirus. Referring this to the financial aspect, the lower middle class of the Indian society, constituting the major population, has lost 22% of its income already. Relating this to the world statistics, the World Bank states that the world is true to lose around $5 trillion of growth, which is more than the annual outcome of Japan, which will also result in this being the deepest curve in terms of the lowering of the GDP since 1930s. While some people may find job opportunities in the IT sector, but in a country where only 8% of the people with 8% of the residences with young people at their residences have a proper internet connection, this too seems far impossible. Now, why am I stressing on these? Is that when a country like India is losing around 8% of its GDP owing to the coronavirus, and the country is going to suffer a job crisis, which it is already, it is going to lead to immense depression, numerous suicides, domestic violence, and thereby leading to the loss of humanity. The roti and kapda dialogue just doesn't work in the 21st century. A woman in the Australian supermarket illegally kills a man with a knife over a confrontation on toilet paper rolls. A Singaporean student of Chinese origin is ethnically beaten on the streets of London just because she was trying to steal bread for her family. Protesters on the Indian Ocean of the island of Reunion welcome cruise passengers by hurling abuse and rocks at them. Therefore, if this is not humanity, I would like to ask my worthy opponents, what is? Thank you.
Thank you, Aspen For. Well spoken. Are there any questions for the speaker? Right, I can only see one. Hazel Against, you may ask a question.
You mentioned in your speech that people have lost humanity. I would like to point out to you the certain incidents that we see in the newspaper. We have seen people rendering selfless service. We have seen people driving people they don't know, driving strangers to hospitals at the 11th hour when even their own family members weren't around to help them. Okay, we have seen people turning to social service, helping even animals who were not getting food during these times because of all the restaurants closing and most of the shopping malls being shut down. So what do you have to say in this regard?
Well, I welcome this question, but the answer to this question lies in the question itself. You say that the people who did not know that particular person are trying to help them out. what do you want to say about the people who just simply pass away when there's supposedly an accident? Don't you think that the people helping the person who's been injured is very less as compared to the people who are just driving off their cars by looking at that person who's already been injured?
Thank you, Aspen, for. Also, I would request all speakers to only speak when I ask you to do so. I think we have another question here. Daisy Singh, could you please change your name to your school code and then your stance, because I can't really identify, you know.
I am not.
She's one of the judges, sir.
Oh, right. I'm so sorry, ma'am. I'm so sorry. Right.
No, it's just I wanted to remind the participants that please ask questions on the content of the speaker, not a question of your own. Okay? Ask questions on the content of the speaker, not questions of your own. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. So are there no other questions? Right, so we can move on to the next speaker, that is Aspen Against. You have the floor for 3 minutes.
Thank you. With over 1 million confirmed cases and around 35,000 deaths in India currently, India and the rest of the world alike have been facing a downward spiral with reference to economic growth and welfare, as India's GDP slows down to 3.1% in the fourth quarter of the fiscal year 2020. However, we pessimists have a tendency to overlook the positive aspect of things around us, such as the 97% recovery rate and the hope with which people continue to persevere. This hope and a template of globalization based on fairness, equality, and humanity reassures me that the post-COVID-19 world would definitely not see humanity at its worst. A very good morning to the House. I am Shrija Tar, and I firmly make my stand on side opposition of the given motion. With the outbreak of this virus, more and more people have resorted to prayers and belief in the Almighty to keep them and their loved ones safe and sound, making loss of faith an unlikely scenario. If at all people do lose faith, it would be in a positive sense, as it would dawn on the faithful that the forces of nature are after all human neutral, and that mankind does not exercise domination in a larger cosmic plan. It is undeniable that the global wealth market will suffer due to the corona outbreak, with an expected 7% decline in 2020. But emphasizing on it to the point of seeing humanity at its worst is an exaggeration. While job losses in manufacturing, tourism, and commodity sectors are expected to increase inequality worldwide, the exploration and expansion of sovereign wealth funds is a simple fix to encourage greater equality. Humanity was at its worst when Hitler executed the Holocaust, killing 6 million Jews in 1945. But in a global crisis such as this, rationality and human empathy will ensure that we do not reach our worst. Thank you.
Thank you, Aspen Against. Are there any questions for the speaker? No questions. Right, so we can move on to the next speaker, that is Eucalyptus 4. Eucalyptus 4, you have the floor for 3 minutes. Right.
Yeah,
Daisy, ma'am.
I just wanted to ask you that if there is no question asked from the student, then like the rebuttal part, I mean, we have to let go of that. That's not fair for any participant. So if nobody is asking a question, I think one of the moderators could put a question for the student.
Right, absolutely, ma'am. That makes perfect sense. Daisy, ma'am, has also raised up a hand. Ma'am, could you please speak?
The participants have to ask questions. Otherwise, the speaker gets full 10 marks. So it's very imperative that the participants have to ask questions.
Right.
So please tell that they
Note here. I'm going to ask again before we move on to the next speaker. Are there any questions for Aspen against? Still no questions. Judges, do you want to ask any question?
No, the judges do not ask. It's the
Right.
speaker who gains complete 10 marks. Children, please be sure. You better ask or the participant gets a complete 10. Because there is no one contesting her. That means she's right. No one has contested her. Okay.
Daisy ma'am, I would just like to say the students, I mean, we are dealing with this generation. They're very smart. They'll pick up very fast, and they understand that if we are giving 10, so nobody will ask question, everybody gets 10. So let's make make another rule. If nobody asks a question, let the moderators put the question, because we have to judge them. Giving them 10 marks, I think that's not fair actually, because
It's okay.
we've already marked 3 students, and then it will be unfair for them.
It's okay. I was just telling the rules
Yeah,
of debate.
I understood. Yeah, I absolutely get you. But moderators, could you be ready with a few questions, please? If the students do not want to ask, then the moderators must put a question for the speaker. Thank you.
Right. Cyprus 4 has a question. Could you ask it?
You said that Maple is the team, right?
No, it's Aspen against.
Aspen again said that 97% of people have been recovering. The recovery rate is 97%. But recent study shows that 2.25% recovery has been decreasing. So isn't that statistic wrong to say that we are recovering at a very fast rate, so humanity is taking a turn? Or it is getting better day by day?
Right,
Thank you for your question. I never
Aspen
mentioned.
against, could you please start speaking when I tell you to do so, because you're being timed as well.
I'm sorry.
Please for interrupting you. Now, you have the floor for 30 seconds. Could you please answer?
Okay. Thank you for your question. I never mentioned that humanity is taking a turn or getting better day by day. Even if the recovery rate is decreasing by 2.25%, that still leaves us with 94.75% of recovery rate. And that is still a high enough rate considering the number of people that are getting infected. And I must mention that we are speaking with reference to a post-COVID world after the virus has been tackled. So I would request you to ask questions with reference to a world after, this situation has been handled.
So you're given a statistics with reference to the
Cyprus
situation.
4, rebuttals aren't allowed. I'm sorry. So yeah, is there anyone else who wants to ask a question? Right, still no one else. Okay, I think we can move on to the next speaker. That is Eucalyptus 4. Eucalyptus 4, you have the floor for 3 minutes. Eucalyptus 4, you're still muted. I can't really hear.
Good morning. Am I audible?
Right, you're audible now. You have the floor for.
I'm Swarnim Samant of Team Eucalyptus, and I will be speaking for the motion. 8th January 2020, US-Iran conflicts generate the first buzz of World War III. War. 25th January 2020, East Africa is attacked by locusts, which threatens the food security. Famine. 11th March 2020, the WHO declares the COVID-19 as the pandemic. Pestilence. 30th July 2020, 665,000 lives have been claimed by the pandemic. Death. 2020 has welcomed the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse And yes, the post-COVID world will see humanity at its worst. Now, my opponents would like to disagree with me by saying that humanity still has hope and that people are still helping each other. But let us consider the fact that human behavior has a recurring pattern and history tends to repeat itself, just like the Spanish influenza occurred and now COVID-19 is. Let us compare the Spanish influenza and the Great Depression and COVID-19 and the tanking of the economy that is happening right now. During the Spanish influenza, we could have expected humanity to come together, but nothing stopped the Russian Civil War or the Russo-Polish Wars from happening. This paved the way for the Great Depression, which actually fueled fascism in the 1930s and made World War II more likely. What is to say that COVID-19 and the tanking of the economy will not do the same right now? When the superpowers of the world are threatening each other, and when no one is coming together to fight the greater enemy, which is the pandemic. Now, let us consider the final and most important nail in the coffin, which are the environmental factors. We tend to focus on the positives, such as how air pollution is decreasing due to shutting down of non-essential industries and the lockdown, which has curbed non-essential movement. But do we realize that the medical waste generated has increased so much, and this is having such a major effect on the environment? The environment was already in shambles before the COVID, and now the air pollution which has reduced and the small factors which have become better are in no way countering the major factors which we have already destroyed and the addition that we are doing to the pollution. So I would like to say that a mercenary race as ourselves is not going to get better. And whatever little measures that we take is not really going to help. So the post-COVID world will see humanity at its worst, just as it is right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Eucalyptus, for other speakers who want to ask questions. Okay, I'm going to repeat. Are there any speakers who want to ask any question? Aspen against. Could you go ahead with your question?
Firstly, well spoken. You that no one is coming together to fight against the pandemic. On what grounds exactly did you make that statement?
Could you repeat your question, Aspen against?
The speaker mentioned that no one is coming together to fight against the pandemic. This was a part of his speech. I would like to ask her on what grounds exactly did she make that statement when there are so many donations from entrepreneurs and Sonu Sood and many other people in India and across the world who are actually coming together to fight against the pandemic, who are playing their part to fight against the pandemic.
Right. Thank you, Aspen against. Eucalyptus 4, you have the floor for 30 seconds.
Thank you for your question. I would like to say that these measures that we are taking when we are coming together and the donations that these big people are making is in no way enough to counter the damage that we have already done before COVID and the damage that we are doing during COVID. The superpowers are still threatening each other, and the major entities which are supposed to be coming together, the nations of the world which are supposed to be coming together, aren't yet. Thank you.
Thank you, Eucalyptus 4. Is there anyone else who wants to ask a question? Right, so no other questions. We can move on to the next speaker, that is Eucalyptus against. Eucalyptus against, you have the floor for 3 minutes.
Good morning. I am Amok Joshi from Team Eucalyptus and will be speaking against the motion. Post-COVID world will not see humanity at its worst. How am I so confident of this, you ask me? It's simple, really. I believe that the world cannot become worse than it already is. For me, this is our lowest point, and there will only be a greater and a better future to look forward to. Because if the history has taught us anything, It is that throughout the number of wars and the pandemics and natural calamities that we have suffered, we have always risen through. We have shown the world that there is still something left in that heart. One particular incident comes to mind of an Alfred Vanderbilt. In 1900s, he was one of the richest persons alive. In 1915, he was on the RMS Lusitania, which is the same ship which was sunk by the German U-boats. Now, one might ask, what did he do when the ship was hit? He could have easily escaped. He had a net worth of $150 billion, but he didn't. He stayed back and he helped the women and children evacuate. He sacrificed himself for humanity, for the sake of the future, for others. There have been numerous instances, not only in the past, but also in the present, which give me hope for the future. In the post-COVID world, there will surely be some, in the post-COVID future, there will surely be some disturbances between countries. There will be distrust among them, among the people of different ethnic groups. But the fact of the matter is that the world has always been on a brink of descending into chaos and anarchy, but it hasn't, due to the compassion and the love shown by the people. The fact of the matter is that for every yin, there is a yang. I believe that something as small as 2 police officers helping a little kid fix his bicycle tire to something as great as people sacrificing their own lives selflessly only for the future and for the humanity. All of them enlighten something within me. All of them help me remember that yes, we humans we still have hope. There is still hope for us. We can still move forward. There is the possibility of a brighter future. How can I be so sure of this, one may ask me? Well, the fact of the matter is that I am not. There have been relief measures taken in the past, and there will be relief measures taken in the future, but they may not be enough. The people tend to get people tend to get irritated, and they tend to descend to violence and racism, as has been mentioned by many speakers. Well, the thing is that is the human nature. You have to survive at any cost, and they will. Either it will be a total anarchy, or it will be a better future for our next generations to look forward to. The only thing we can have is hope, and the only thing I have is faith. And sometimes that is all the world really needs, is it not? A leap of faith. Thank you.
Thank you, Eucalyptus. Against, I would advise all speakers to stick to the time limit and listen to the bell. Are there any questions for the speaker? Right, Maple, you may go ahead with your question.
First of all, very well spoken. You mentioned in your speech that racism is the human nature, like people have, that it's present in the society. But don't you think that if racism was at a certain level today, or was at a certain level previously, is at a certain level today, is going to have a very great rise in the future after the COVID-19 pandemic? Like, what are your views on this?
Maple, could you repeat your question, please?
Okay, so what I wanted to say is, racism has been there in the society, but don't you think that there is going to be a great rise in the future?
Right, I think there's some disturbance coming from another source. I'm sorry, Maple, I'm going to ask you to repeat your question one last time.
Am I audible?
Yeah, you are.
Okay, so I wanted to ask that, as you mentioned in your speech, that racism is our human nature. So, like, as racism has always been present, don't you think that in the coming future, in the post-COVID world, racism is going to have is going to take a larger leap, like it will be at a very great level?
Right. Thank you, Maple. For Eucalyptus, again, you have 30 seconds to answer the question.
I think it depends upon the particular personality of a person. I don't believe that a person who was never racist or did not have racial prejudices before will suddenly start to be racist after this COVID threat is dealt with. I believe that it will only either be heightened or it will be lessened. The fact of the matter is that no matter how much you lessen it, if it is there, if a person has racial prejudices, they will come out sooner or later. Just depends on how extreme it will be. And the fact of the matter is that
Eucalyptus, again,
either it
your
can all.
time is up. Right. Aspen 4, you had a question?
Yeah. First of all, well spoken. In the beginning of your speech, you've said that you believe that the world cannot be worst because it is already at its worst. And at the same time, later on in your speech, you're mentioning about your hopes of having a bright future and policemen repairing children's bicycles. Don't you think you're yourself contradicting your own points and beliefs?
Right. Thank you, Aspen 4. Eucalyptus, again, you have 30 seconds to answer the question.
No, what I do believe is that the world is already at its worst, and therefore it can only be better for the future. What I believe, what I meant about the police officers helping the child star is just a dream of the future, and that can very much be a possibility. For all you know, the people may learn compassion after what they face, and thus there is a chance. There is more than a chance for a better future. Thank you.
Thank you,
Well,
Eucalyptus.
my question still remains unanswered, but that's all right.
Aspen 4, please do not speak after the speaker answer your question. Next speaker on the list is Bristlecone 4. Bristlecone 4, are you there? Right. You have the floor for 3 minutes.
Hello, am I audible?
You are. So you have the floor for 3 minutes.
A very good morning, everyone. I'm speaking for the motion. Yes, the post-COVID world will see humanity at its worst, will loss of faith, of wealth and dignity will bring about a barbaric state of affairs. Maxime Leguest very well said, being human is given, but choosing humanity is our choice. Of all the catastrophic events to befall humanity between an asteroid hit and a nuclear war, a disease pandemic has always been highest on our list of impact and probability. USA, which was once the superpower, has now millions of unemployment claims. A descent into barbarism, robust capitalism, radical socialism, or a society built on mutual aid are these situations which will be faced by all of us and the entire world when this COVID-19 rests its case. The mental as well as the physical health of many of the employees are under stake. Many have lost their jobs and the economy is at a state of loss. As per my many doctors, maintaining social distancing is a better solution to prevent the spread of COVID-19 virus. The lockdown is placing pressure on the global economy. The hospitals are overwhelmed with patients. Everyone is running to save their own life. And somewhere, a selfish motive is building up. Everyone wants their life to be saved. As per the Hindu newspaper, the time is not so far when during the mid-September, when you will see everyone in every house, at least a single patient. And then the people will not think of their friends or their colleagues. They would better think about themselves. A selfish motive. There will be a rush to save their own life at first. Everyone is prepared because the situation is going to worsen. loss of faith in one's human nature, unemployment is at its peak. People are struggling for hunger more than their health. The Hindustan Times say either we will break down due to this coronavirus pandemic, or due to hunger. The people who will be able to survive and rest and will be able to save their jobs will at the end raise into robust capitalists. James Baldwin said, pray for your own health first and then humanity. I should rest my case by concluding that yes, I believe the post COVID-19 world will see humanity at its worst when loss of faith and wealth will bring about a barbaric state of affairs. Thank you.
Thank you, Bristol Cone, for. Are there any questions for the speaker? Fellow speakers, I would urge you to ask questions because, as the judges mentioned, rebuttals are an essential part of speaking as well. Cyprus Against, you have a question, you may go ahead.
First of all, very well spoken. You mentioned in your speech that people in this lockdown, people are struggling for hunger. So the government, don't you think that the government is providing relief packages to everyone out there in the society, like mostly many people in the society, and then there are some responsible citizens who are also helping the society. So don't you think that humanity exists? Humanity is not at its worst.
Cyprus Against, thank you for your question. Bristlecone 4, you have 30 seconds to answer your question.
Thank you for your question. I would say that the government is providing those health safety tips and the food services, but it is not reaching the common and the poor needy people at first. First of all, they're illiterate. They don't know where from they need to get these sources. And when the situation will worsen after the COVID-19, when everyone in your own house is suffering from this virus, then you will at first think about your health and pray for your health and safety, and then you will be thinking of humanity.
Bristlecone 4, your time is up, please. Thank you for your rebuttal. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, we can move on to the next speaker, that is Bristlecone Against. Bristlecone Against, you have the floor for 3 minutes. Your video is still muted. Yeah, right. So you have the floor for 3 minutes.
You must not lose in faith in humanity. Humanity is an ocean, and if few drops of ocean are dirty, then we cannot say that ocean is a dirty. A very good morning to all of you. From my point of view, the post-COVID world will not create a situation when the humanity will be at worst. There are many reasons. As we can see, that humanity is not the end. Here, we can see that humanity is at peak. We are seeing that many people are helping others without greed and without anything. This situation will create a equality among many people. Like today, the most common societal divide that exists between the rich and the poor is being mocked by this tiny virus. Now, no one is safe from this virus, which will bring a sensible realization among the women that their social status will not save them, only their humanity and their self-being will save them. Their safety will save them, and the precaution will save them. The story of humanity revolves around the laws of nature, and there is nothing supreme than nature, which has been existing from billions of years, which bring a sense that we should respect the nature and other living beings because of our greed only this situation has been created, and this situation has led us to the promotion of culture and daily habits in daily life of where we don't have time for our relatives and family. Now we are spending quality times with our friends and relatives and family. And we are learning many more things. Like earlier, no one want to cook. Everyone want to keep a maid in their house. Now everyone is trying to cook by themselves. And this gives the lesson to all humans that in future there may be situation where you need to respect other species. Thank you.
Thank you, Brasuko and Against. Are there any questions for the speaker? Right. Aspen 4, you may go ahead with your question.
You mentioned in your speech that the gap between the rich and the poor is bridging in these times. Well, don't you think that post the virus, the rich will become richer and the poor are already losing their jobs? Like the daily wage workers are generally the poor people.
Yeah, but the rich people are
Brasuko, Against, could you please speak when I ask you to?
sorry.
Right, no issues. You have 30 seconds to answer your question.
No, the rich are also losing their jobs, and many businessmen are losing their employee, and without employees, how they will earn profit? So if poor people are losing their jobs, then rich people are also facing problems, and there will be a situation when they will think, there will be a realization among them that being rich is not the thing which will save their life. They will, after this situation, they will respect everyone, whether it is a rich person or a poor person.
Right. Thank you for your response. Maple 4, you had a question.
Very well spoken. My question is that, as you mentioned in your speech, that during this COVID-19 time, the people have realization that it is not their society status, whether it's poor or rich, it's like the humanity that will save them. Don't you think that in the post-COVID world, when the vaccine will be out, then the rich will use their society, like their money, their status, to get as much vaccine as they can, and the poor will be on the second hand, like on the later side?
No,
Bristlecone
I'm
again.
really sorry. I'm really sorry.
It's totally fine, no issues. You have the floor for 30 seconds.
Like we can see in hospitals, there is no reservation. Everyone is getting the admission, and every people is getting the proper treatment. And as government are taking many measures to save the poor people, then the government also take the measures to provide vaccines to the poor people also. And the responsible citizen will also to care to the poor people, as we are seeing that they are serving to the poor by providing food and money and shelter.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you for your response. Cyprus 4, you had a question.
You mentioned in your speech that after since we are at home now, we are able to interact with people and we are able to talk to our relatives. But after the COVID-19 situation, we will be back to sending text messages to people instead of going to people and meeting them actually. So how can you say that humanity will still prevail because we will be able to?
Can you please repeat your question?
You said that after the COVID-19 situation, during this COVID-19 situation, people are able to meet their relatives. And so you say humanity is still prevailing. But after COVID, we will see that we will be back to sending text messages to people instead of actually visiting them. So how will humanity prevail after the COVID-19 situation?
No, after the COVID-19 situation, the humanity still prevails, because in this situation, we can see the humanity in bad times only. In this bad situation also, if people are supporting their relative and their loved ones, then when the situation will become normal and everyone will be happy, then absolutely they will care about them and they will help to them.
Right. Thank you for your response. I think that's the 3 questions, and we won't be entertaining further questions. We can move on to our next speaker, that is Cyprus 4. Cyprus 4, are you there? Right. You have the floor for 3 minutes.
Now, as I go to sleep, I'm awakened by the harsh realities, the nightmares that the world is going to face after the COVID-19 situation. And that reality is a barbarism with a face. How can my opponents think that humanity is still going to prevail in the world when Italy has decided that it will, take decisions, important decisions of life and death for people above the age of 80? Does this aspect of survival of the fittest not violate the first military ethics, which says providing assistance to those who are the most wounded, in spite of their chance of survival being the minimal? Now no one, I think, would deny the fact that due to this COVID-19 situation taking the big picture, the other humanitarian issues which the world was already facing, has taken a backseat. For example, as I mentioned, the cases of domestic violence for women has increased and taken a surge according to a UN report. But the cherry on the cake now here lies that two-thirds of the organizations which actually provide assistance to these, people who are women who are faced with domestic violence had already stopped receiving funding from the people who actually provide them funding. And now you can imagine what better excuses after the COVID-19 situation these people are going to give. As of December 2019, according to a Bloomberg report, 1 in 45 million people worldwide were already in need of some sort of humanitarian assistance. And the pandemic is also likely to obviously increase the numbers. The World Health Food Program says that the people who will be in need of food will double. UNICEF warns that the children and their death toll is going to rise who are below the age of 5. Now, how can we say that humanity is still going to prevail? But when we see that in such a situation of trauma, distress, and sad and patheticness, we are still not seeing countries coming together. We are still not seeing governments coming together or parties coming together to help out people. Now, my opponents would think that we might take important lessons from this COVID situation and implement them in the future. But let me remind you, the Spanish flu that occurred in 1918 had many important lessons for the history. But still, have we taken the lessons? No. And the first lesson being, in the 1918 situation too was unprepared, was when acutely vulnerable to the surprises that future beholded. And in 2022, in 2020 also, we were not ready for the surprises that the future was awaiting for us. Secondly, the Spanish flu occurred at a time when Spain was facing World War II. And now also we could see that India, China, US were engaged in border tensions amid this situation of outbreak. So there's focus of providing assistance to people, humanizing with people, providing empathy to people has shifted of these countries and of these governments has shifted from providing assistance to these people rather than they are engaged more on the border tensions that are prevailing in their countries now. How can my opponents think that humanitarian issues are going to get better and better after the COVID-19 situation when we see nurses and the many frontline workers still they are receiving very receiving very poor salaries, and they are very poorly paid. Secondly, we also saw that the Gandhi COVID care hospital in Hyderabad, it saw a strike by the doctors and because they were paid very poor stipend. And how can you say that the situation is going to get better and better after the COVID? It is obviously going to get worse and worse. And I fear the day when my nightmares and my panic would turn into a reality. Thank you.
Thank you, Cyprus, for two things. Firstly, I would urge all speakers to note the time limit. Secondly, judges, please note that the speaker is Cyprus 4 and Hazel will be called out after this. Are there any questions for the speaker? Okay, I'm going to ask again. Are there any questions for the speaker? Other speakers, please note that it is necessary to ask questions to the speaker at hand. Right. Seeing as there are no speakers who want to ask questions, we move on to the next speaker, that is Cyprus against. Cyprus against, you have, are you there?
Yes, yes.
Right. You have the floor for 3 minutes.
Every catastrophe is an opportunity to build a stage where the best of humanity has the spotlight to shine. We will welcome a new epoch where there is a natural space for species that do share our hubris. The COVID-19 pandemic has taught us an important lesson about ourselves as a human community. We are interconnected and interdependent on each other in many ways we did not fully understand before. My health and well-being are dependent on your health and well-being, and the same principle applies beyond borders and regions. Indeed, our collective health defines the health of business and economies within and across nations. Governments too are taking important measures to prioritize the well-being of their citizens, committing significant economic relief packages and elevating healthcare efforts to protect people. We must remember that policy without people has no power. Therefore, philanthropic resources are supporting communities, workers, and social movements more than ever to drive demand for reforms and ensure their implementation. Donor collaboratives, including funders organized for rights in the global economy, bringing together the Ford Foundation, Open Society Foundation, and others, are moving in this direction and collaborating to address short-term needs and build long-term solutions towards a right-based economy. The COVID-19 pandemic, it is a stark reminder of our dysfunctional relationship with nature. Half of the world's GDP is highly or moderately dependent on nature. For every dollar spent on nature restoration, at least $9 of economic benefits can be expected. During these months of quarantine and lockdown, humanity did not fail to shine through and make its presence felt. The Sikh community offers free meals to over 30,000 amid COVID-19 isolation in New York. A forum created by Jamia Nagar residents to supply essential commodities to daily wagers during lockdown. In Kalyan, nearly 10 social organizations have joined these Mumbai-based NGOs who plan to provide around 600 ration kits to the needy families. Enforced quiet and separation because of coronavirus can reacquaint some of us with the value of peace, while solitude can whet our appetites for joy of true fellowship. Just as the shipwrecked Crusoe is reborn, so trying times can clarify for us the true bounties of our lives. A pandemic can seem like the end, but it can also serve as the beginning. If we heed Defoe's inspiration, these unprecedented challenges can transform us into wiser and more caring human beings. Thank you.
Thank you, Cyprus Against. Are there any questions for the speaker? Eucalyptus 4, you can go ahead with your question.
You mentioned and measures that have been taken for the environment. Could you mention any specific measures, and do you think they are enough?
Thank you. Cyprus Against, right, you have for 30 seconds.
Yeah, like these, we need to focus towards the environment. Like this pandemic, it has left us, like it is an eye opener for us, and we need to look through the indirect methods. Like methods we have never really seen, like methods we have not tried before. We need to look at those measures so that we can boost our economy. Yeah, we are paying more attention to thinking about like boosting our economy through these.
Yes, Cyprus Against. Are there any other questions for the speaker? Seeing none, we move on to the next speaker, that is Hazel 4. Hazel 4, you have the 3 minutes.
Yeah. A very warm good morning to everyone. This is me, Kritika, and I will be speaking on the topic, COVID world will see humanity at its worst when loss of faith, of wealth, and of dignity will bring about a barbaric state of affair, and I'm totally for the motion. Without a visa or a legal document, the novel coronavirus has succeeded in crossing the borders from East Asia to the entire world, affecting millions of people from various corners of the world, failing to discriminate people based on their status, wealth, age, or citizenship, leading to a global pandemic. In fact, why to go so far? People do need a virus to threaten their lives. What if this virus is trying to teach us what we have always been in denial of? That regardless of our gender, religion, ethnicity, we all belong to the same race, and that is the race of humanity. And what affects and weakens one human being actually affects and weakens the whole humanity. Behind all the statistics lies the human cost of pandemic, from the death of families and friends to the physical effect of infections, from the financial concerns and job losses to mental trauma and the fear faced by almost everyone. Not knowing how this pandemic will affect our economic, physical, and mental well being against the backdrop of the world, people are getting more lonely, unhappy, and anxious. We have taken a nature so granted that hence nature is showing a fierce side of us. Surely we have achieved so many things, cured the uncurable, but the whole world is not able to fight against the microscopic virus. The virus reminds me that sufferings are invisible and spreads to consume all. That poverty and dignity cannot stand together, just like justice and empathy cannot stand together. More importantly, the greatest threat of humanity is the loss of faith in prayers and the belief in togetherness. At last, I would like to conclude by saying that we can always hope that COVID-19 will alter the world for better, as we are seeing this happening in so many phases, like promoting hygiene and self-dependent India. But the phrase still counts. Now, what is the use when the bird has spoiled the field? But better late than never. We can always aim for the best, because mankind must put a stop to ends and losses before ends and losses put a stop to mankind. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Hazel. Are there any questions for the speaker? Eucalyptus 4, you could go ahead with your question.
Could you please elaborate on how justice and empathy do not stand together?
Oh, could you please repeat?
Could you please elaborate? Justice and empathy do not stand together.
Hazel 4, you have the floor for 30 seconds.
Yeah, I could definitely elaborate that, because even if you're guilty and you're praying for empathy and sympathy, that oh, please forgive me, but the justice cannot impart that, right? So justice and empathy are different things. When you are imparting justice and imparting justice, you don't have to look for empathy. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Right, Aspen against, could you go ahead with the question?
Firstly, well spoken. I would like to continue the previous question. Isn't imparting justice to the guilty a form of showing empathy to the victim?
Thank you for your question, Aspen 4. Hazel 4, you have 30 seconds to answer the question.
Yeah, I totally agree with your point of view, and I feel like imparting justice to the victim, imparting justice to the culprit is actually providing empathy for the victim, but it's not providing empathy for the culprit. So even if the culprit demands for empathy and regrets and says sorry, we can't impart empathy to that person. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Hazel 4. Aspen against, you have a question. Could you go ahead with it? This will be the last question for the speaker. Aspen against, you've raised your hand. Right. Aspen against, are you there?
She answered my question, so I'm
Right.
done.
Right. Thank you. So,
okay.
Are there any other questions for the speaker? Seeing none, we move on to the next speaker. Is Hazel against? Hazel against, you have the floor for 3 minutes.
Good morning, am I audible?
You are.
Good morning, I'm Suti from Team Hazel, and I'm going to speak against the motion. It is true that the COVID pandemic had a negative impact on our society, but that's not all about COVID. It had some positive impacts as well. During this lockdown, people were forced to remain inside their homes along with their family members, away from their normal engagements. Here, they learned to adjust with others, respect others, pay time and attention to others, as well as to lower their ego to create a happy environment at home. They learned to value their relationships, to recognize the people who truly love them, who stood by them during these challenging times. The best part of the post-COVID world is that it would be cleaner than ever. People have realized the value of cleanliness and personal hygiene. They will pay more attention to cleaning themselves as well as their surroundings to keep everyone away from diseases. We have also learned to recognize the true national heroes who dedicate their lives to the service of the nation, like the doctors and the nurses and the policemen. We will now provide them their due respect and dignity. They work hard to keep our society right. During this time, we have also found the opportunity to discover our hidden talents and interests. People have developed new hobbies, some have switched to cooking, crafting, crocheting, and knitting, and some have also developed interests in social service. So, the post COVID world will see people living a more productive and happy life because they would be doing what they really like to do. We will also see humanity making a great leap in the field of science and technology. The COVID-19 has brought in a new way of science, tools, and new software which will enable us to fight with upcoming pandemics. The Spanish flu introduced to us the ideas of lockdown and social distancing, and the COVID-19 has brought even newer ideas. We have also learned to take care of the others. The COVID pandemic had seen a high rise in the number of suicide cases. So if we want our loved ones to be around us for a long time, we now realize that we need to take good care of them, pay attention and time to them, and take care of their overall emotional and mental well-being. Of course, the environment has gone a huge healing change. The ozone layer has repaired, and we have seen some endangered species returning. Therefore, I would like to conclude by saying that the post-pandemic world will see humanity at the peak of science and technology as well as good morals. Thank you.
Thank you, Hazel Against. So we will only be entertaining two questions for the speaker. Eucalyptus for, could you go ahead with your question?
Yes. You mentioned that people are paying more attention to health and the surrounding needs. Now, later you mentioned that the repairing itself, but the disinfecting and repairing don't take up.
Eucalyptus for, you're not audible at all. Could you?
Just a minute. Am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible now. Thank you.
Yes, I was saying that you mentioned that we are paying more attention and the surroundings clean. Then you mentioned that the ozone layer is repairing it. The disinfectant harm the ozone layer. The other disinfectants and sanitizers we're using are not causing more pollution, chemical pollution.
Right, Eucalyptus for, I don't think you were audible again. Could you maybe try to repeat it one last time?
Yes, am I audible?
Your voice is cracking a lot.
Can I type my question?
Right. We really can't hear you. Is it? I think we can. Right. Yeah, I think we can do that. That's allowed. But could you please be quick with it? Right. Hazel again, can you see the question?
Yes, it's true that the disinfectants are causing pollution, but during the lockdown, a lot has been stopped. A lot of human activities have been restricted. That is the thing which has led the environment to undergo a repair. Yes, when the lockdown is removed and the normal human activities again start, it's true that pollution will again reach its peak level, but we will have a better environment to start with. And if we are conscious enough, we can surely not cause as much harm to the environment as we have been doing before.
Right. Thank you. Aspen 4, this will be the last question that we're entertaining.
First of all, well spoken. In your speech, you've mentioned about science progressing during the coronavirus pandemic. What about if science becomes the future and the people who are not that techno-friendly need to, become techno-friendly in order to cope with the situations after the coronavirus? And if your answer to this is going to be that it's going to be good for them, that they're going to become techno-friendly, then mind you, you mentioned in your speech that people are doing something which they want to do, and definitely for a person who's not techno-friendly to become techno-friendly at the age of something, let's say 40s or 50s, it's quite difficult.
I think we're living in the
This is
21st
again.
century, and as time is yes.
Can you please start when I ask you to start? Right. So you have 30 seconds to answer your question.
Okay, we as the citizens living in the 21st century, I think we are much accustomed to technology, and as time is progressing, more and more technology is coming into being. Even you can see old people carrying smartphones and having Facebook profiles. So I think even if new technology comes into being, a major part of the society will accept it. It will be difficult for some people, no doubt, but every system is not actually perfect. So like we can get accustomed to it.
Thank you, Hazel, again. And that will be the last question that we're entertaining. We are done with all speakers as well. And since we're short on time, once done, all participants, can you mute your audio and video? Right. So since we're short on time, I will be handing back the proceedings to I will be concluding the debate and handing back the proceedings to the organizers. And thank you all the speakers, thank you all the judges for your time and work that you've put in. And it's been a very enriching and lively debate, and it was good to hear all your opinions. And thank you. Signing off and handing back the proceedings to the organizers.
Thank you, Harsh sir. If the judges would like to say something, we will appreciate that.
May I speak?
Yes, ma'am, please.
First of all, thank you so much for making me a part of this wonderful virtual debate session. And it's always a pleasure to hear these young minds open up and express their views and thoughts, and we heard a lot of things about the pandemic. One thing I would like to state over here is, some of you were reading, I think the other judges will agree with that, that is, I don't think that is quite the done thing, because a debate is not a reading session. It has to become very spontaneous. It has to come from within. You are almost like a lawyer fighting in a court. So, you have to be convinced about your points. Second thing, some of you veered away from the topic. The topic was basically based on human beings and the socio-psycho impact of this COVID on the mind, basically. Mind and obviously into action, which translates into action. Most of you spoke about nature, you spoke about the earth healing itself and all. But I would like to state that the emphasis should have been on the psychological impact, the depression, the loneliness, the lack of friendship, lack of job, the worry, the anxiety, that should have been emphasized. What about the other judges? Do you agree?
Yeah, we do agree.
Absolutely, teacher.
I think humanities can cover a broader aspect. Psychology is definitely one aspect of it. Environment and social fabric also comes into it. So I guess we can allow this debate.
And
Um, okay, Harsh, would you like me to say a few words to the participants?
Absolutely, ma'am. Please, it's our pleasure.
Okay. On the onset, let me first congratulate you. You've been conducting the debate absolutely flawlessly, very smooth, because I understand online, there are certain issues which we, cannot handle if we are, like working with everybody physically present in the same room. That things becomes easier. So, but then you have handled it very beautifully. Congratulations to you. Congratulations to the moderators of Science Club, Mrs. Sen Gupta and Mr. Ashish Kapoor. Congratulations to each of the participants. All of you have done wonderfully well. Considering the fact that the topic was given just 1 hour before the event, I would say you all have done a very commendable job because, if you're not given a time limit or if you're given a free, open platform to speak, you can go on speaking endlessly and try to prove your point. But when you are given us, 3 minutes time slot, then also to present your point in a very organized manner takes lots of practice and lots of control on exactly what you want to say. So although I agree with Mrs. Meeta Lal that you had to speak more on the humanity, the thing, not just only government or a particular thing, but I would also say that most of you have covered the topic pretty well, very, very well done. So congratulations, each one of you. At the same time, I would like to say oratory is just like every other skill. It's a learned skill. Nobody is born with it. You practice, you develop, you grow with it, and keep practicing because practice makes you perfect. And don't give up, don't shy of your mistakes because mistakes only prove that you are trying. So even if you make mistakes, keep practicing, working hard. And I'll just say this, यूं ही नहीं मिलती राही को मंजिल, यूं ही नहीं मिलती राही को मंजिल, एक जुनून सा दिल में जगाना होता है, पूछा चिड़िया से कैसे बनता है आशियाना, बोली भरनी पड़ती है उड़ान बार बार, एक एक तिनका उठाना पड़ता है. So the more you work, the more you strive, the more you practice, the better you become. So don't give up, don't fall short of making the effort. Okay, whatever the results are today, each one of you is a winner. That is all I'll say. And once again, congratulations, Arko Mukhopadhyay. I forgot to mention your name, the overall in charge of Quantum 20. Thank you so much. You've been doing a wonderful job. Harsh, once again, congratulations, and all the participants, my co-judges. Thank you so much. And I think over to Harsh. Proceed further. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for those kind words. And I would ask Daisy ma'am and Mohan sir to speak if they have anything to say and present their views to us.
Can I take a few minutes?
Absolutely, sir. Right.
Yeah. First of all, thanks to the LFS organization committee. I think they did a grand job of organizing such a difficult event. Organizing a debate online is a challenging task, and it was well done. And of course, Harsh, I didn't know you stayed in the same block as I do. Grand job of moderating. And co-judges, thank you to you two for being there. Overall, I felt a bit surprised that the people for the motion appeared more convincing when I thought the case was clearly a win-win for the against. But nevertheless, I think overall we must hope for the better, and we see the world a better place to live in post-pandemic. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Daisy ma'am, would you like to say something? And
no, All the points have been very comprehensively covered. So thank you so much. Harsh, thank you to you.
Thank you, ma'am.
I would like to thank Harsh and Arko for navigating us through the rapids. Thank you very much. You've done a wonderful job, both of you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Firstly speaking, ARCO has done all the work, and all the organizers who've been part of this event, they've been absolutely amazing in terms of communication and in terms of handling the proceedings as well. And I know we're slightly short on time, but what I felt from a high schooler and then a college student's perspective was the debate was extremely enriching and encouraging, because I saw so many different views from so many different people, and what I felt was this topic was slightly tough to navigate as well, because there are two sides to the same coin at every place. For every unrest and every violent act that we see, for example, in the United States, there are people who are speaking up against it, and there is a voice rising against it. So for every injustice that will be done, people are becoming increasingly aware of whatever is happening. And in a post-COVID world, I think, like N. Mohan sir said as well, empathy and understanding will have to take a much more positive and much more prominent role as compared to the roles right now. And obviously we're going through a tough time, all of us, and we all we can do is hope for a better world in the future. And
Absolutely. Sorry. Yes, continue, Harsh. Please
oh,
continue.
I'm sorry, ma'am. I'm done. I was just going to say thank you.
Okay. Yeah, Harsh, you've spoken very well, and actually, hope is, even a single thread of hope can take you through this world, and hope is the only thing. And I was surprised because what the co-judge, Mr. Mohan, I think, if I am not mistaken, I got your name correct, Mr. Mohan.
Right.
He said a his observation was very right, that those who were speaking against the motion had, they should have had a field day, because they had more points to cover. Unfortunately, we saw the four was more convinced on their topic, because those who were speaking against, they should have quoted, like we have so many examples of people coming out and helping. Like we had Sonu Sood. None of you, quoted. I mean, use some data or some examples like that, which we are seeing every day. I, being a Rotarian, I can say as Rotarian, every day we are helping out people, and Rotary India has contributed 200 crores towards this COVID-19, relief fund and relief initiatives. And Rotary is just one of the organizations. There are so many organizations, there's so many people at individual level helping out other people. You can see on the television, the news channel, you open the news channel and you see stories of hope, stories of empathy, stories of humanity coming across. So you could have, given those examples also. And of course, as I said, that if you lose hope on humanity, then we have got no place to go. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for those words. And
Harsh, there's one technical point.
Right.
I think there's only one speaker. I think it was Cyprus 4 who got no rebuttal. So
Right.
do we give her the 10 as Daisy suggested, or do we do something which is more equanimous?
Sir, I think that is totally up to the judges. If you feel like there is a question that you feel like you could ask, then I mean that would be
now
great.
it will be too late because the context.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. That's fair.
Still, if the judges agree, we can do something which is more fair. Otherwise, it tilts the scale quite a lot.
My suggestion would be, like, instead of giving a 10, which will not be fair, on the other participants, we should give we can take out an average of what the other participants have got on rebuttal part, and accordingly give the marks, if everybody agrees to it.
Okay, fine with me.
How about the other judges?
I feel she should be given a 10. That means she was so convincing that nobody was able to rebut her.
Okay.
Okay, fine.
You're very convincing.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Right. Thank you.
Right. I think we're pretty much done with it. So I think I can conclude the debate and hand over the proceedings to the organizers. It's been a lovely time, and thank you to all of you who were part of this.
Thank you, Harsh sir, and all the participants for such an enlightening debate on the COVID crisis. I'm sure it was an enriching experience for all of us. Special word of thanks to Sir Harsh for his valuable inputs and the flawless conduction of the debate. I would also like to thank the judges for taking out time from their busy schedules to judge the debate. Thank you so much, everyone.